Yeah, that was fun. Really close.
That is tightened up.
Okay. I assume someone's going to tell us when we're ready. Oh, we're ready to go? Okay, got it. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here today. As all of you are aware, 6 months ago, a Category 5 hurricane slammed ashore about a mile from where we are standing today. The western half of the eye then passed directly over this spot. That was a long day for all of us. Hurricane Michael left a trail of destruction on our base and our surrounding towns and communities that has changed this tight-knit community forever. Shortly after the storm passed, we relocated some of our missions permanently, others temporarily to nearby bases, but most of our missions are back here today. Our Secretary of the Air Force directed us to resume these missions on aggressive timelines because there are missions we do on Tyndall that we do not do anywhere else, and our Air Force depends on us to get the job done. Using a combination of temporary facilities, recently repaired and restored permanent buildings, and no shortage of constant workarounds, we met or exceeded the Secretary's timeline to bring Tyndall's assigned missions back online. We've postured our people and our resources, many in temporary facilities, to be prepared to rebuild the base that we need, not the base that we had. A base we built piecemeal over nearly 80 years, much of it in the 1940s, 50s, and 60s. Airmen and their families are a resilient breed. In the last 6 months, they've kept their chins up and stood alongside our friends and neighbors in our surrounding community. We have a lot of work left to do as we transition from temporary, short-term fixes to long-term, sustainable solutions, and we are ready to get after it. The Chief of Staff of the Air Force said during one of his visits something along the lines of, "We need to flip this tragedy upside down and embrace it as an opportunity." We have taken that advice to heart. We are better today than we were yesterday, and our airmen and their families know that we will be even better tomorrow than we are today. It is my distinct honor to introduce the first of several very special guests we have on our base this morning. When he was governor of Florida, he was among the first and most frequent visitors to our base after the storm. We appreciate his continued and compassionate support for our mission and our people. It is my honor to introduce Senator Rick Scott. Sir, thank you for coming to check on us today.
I want to thank Colonel Laidlaw and his beautiful wife Samantha for the opportunity to be here today. I also want to recognize my wife, who fortunately got to travel together today. We'll be, when we finish this, I'll be going back up to Washington D.C. to continue to fight to get the disaster bill done. The first thing I want to do is I want to thank Colonel Laidlaw and everybody in the Air Force. I mean, what an unbelievable job they've done so far. In a very tough time, they have worked hard to make sure that they brought the mission back to Tyndall as fast as they could. Number two, they did everything they could to watch all the assets, to deal with all the issues they were dealing with mold and all those things, and to save as many buildings as they could here at Tyndall. I want to thank Secretary Heather Wilson for her commitment to Tyndall. I want to thank the President, the Vice President for being here and their support at Tyndall. But we're not where we need to be. We are, if we just think about Tyndall for a second, and you really shouldn't because it's this whole area, but we're 201 days. Think about that. We're 201 days since a Category 5 storm ripped apart Tyndall, but impacted all of Bay County, all this area from Gadsden County all the way over to the counties almost to Pensacola, and all different types of damage. How could we go 201 days without following through on the plan that the Air Force, Colonel Laidlaw, and others have put together to rebuild Tyndall. How could we go 201 days without providing all the funding to help counties like Gadsden County, who are very dependent on the forest industry, and now it was decimated, and on top of their industry and their jobs have been decimated. Now they're basically they have the potential of unbelievable wildfires. We are sitting 201 days without solving these problems. That's not what the greatest government in the world should be doing. It's been frustrating. I've been in the Senate now for about 100 days, and this is all politics. It's not about, oh, what's the right thing to do. We're playing, the Democrats are playing politics with this disaster relief. Now let's remember, Sandy hit, when it hit New York and New Jersey, Chuck Schumer said 91 days was too long to wait for the federal government to come in relief. 91 days. We're at 201 days. There is one person standing in the way of getting the support that we need to rebuild Bay County, all of Florida, and rebuild Tyndall. His name is Chuck Schumer. I'm going to go back up to DC today, and I'm going to say the same thing. Why doesn't Chuck Schumer care about Florida? Why doesn't he care about Georgia? Why doesn't he care about Tyndall Air Force Base? But what I've asked everybody to do, we all have to go with one voice, because this is not about politics. Every citizen in this country is important. Puerto Rico is important. Florida is important. Every place that has a disaster is important, and let's treat everyone the same. So if there's anything, anybody has any ideas of things I should be doing, I'm talking to the White House. I met with the president just before recess on this. I talked to him on Saturday about this. I talked to Mick Mulvaney, talked to Heather Wilson, just in the last couple of days, all in effort to how do we get this bill done so we can rebuild Tyndall and rebuild Bay County and all of Florida. Now somebody I want to introduce Jimmy Petronas. Jimmy is somebody that has been the CFO for a little over 100 days and is from this area and has been working very hard to help rebuild this part of the state and also do a great job as their state CFO.
Good morning, and thank everyone for joining us here today. I appreciate everything Senator Scott has done tirelessly to help the recovery of Northwest Florida. I want to show you something. I think these little bands, for the most part, I think they don't carry a lot of meaning until something faces you that has meaning. And I like to explain. This one here, this red, white, and blue one, this is for firefighter cancer. Important to me. State Fire Marshal. This pink one here, I wear it for my wife Katie because of her fight with breast cancer. Now, where this green one was the first one I got from Mexico Beach. This is I'm just not coming here as your state chief financial officer or state fire marshal. I'm coming here as a born and raised son of Panama City. Bay County is where I was born and raised, and it's where I'm going to raise my family. But just over 6 months ago, Hurricane Michael ripped through this community as a monster Category 5 hurricane. I've heard story after story how families have faced their adversity in building back their families and their families' businesses and their homes. This storm was one of the most powerful storms to ever ravage the coast of the United States. But you won't hear these people standing beside me complaining. You won't hear the people of Bay County complaining. You won't hear the people in Northwest Florida complaining. So I'm here, and we're here to lend our voice to those folks, to step up and to advocate for what you're not hearing. That this storm is not going to be the forgotten storm. And this storm is not going to go by and not allow us to find the recovery that Washington so desperately owes to us. It's maddening. It's maddening that 6 months after this storm, we've yet to see a relief bill out of Congress. And I look at where we're at. We're at Tyndall Air Force Base. Lieutenant Command supporting here 1st Air Force. National security issues are in debate here, and we have not seen a single action on behalf of Washington. Senator Scott has been amazing, advocating, pushing, continue the argument. And we've got to give him every bit of support that we can provide to him to continue pushing forward and making sure this is not forgotten. Just a few days ago, I sent a letter to congressional leadership outlining exactly these needs and asking and inviting them to come and visit Northwest Florida and see the important mission that Tyndall does every single day, 24/7, 365. When we have our heads on our pillows at night, Tyndall is still operating, preparing and protecting our nation. Relief packages for Hurricane Andrew and Katrina and Sandy took a fraction of the time that we have seen here. So Congress needs to desperately step up and pass a package immediately. We're less than 2 months away from the 2019 hurricane season, and having nothing done is just simply unacceptable. I want to thank Senator Scott for his leadership and his tremendous work on behalf of Northwest Florida, not just with Hurricane Michael, but what he has done his entire service as our governor. You know, it was just yesterday, it seemed like, you know, prior to the storm, Senator Scott suspends everything. He's in the race of his life with the U.S. Senate campaign. And then every day before the storm and after the storm, here he is in Northwest Florida, making sure every single element of his job is being babysat to the recovery of his obligations as governor of the state of Florida. He did that to the very last day he was in office. Having him here today means the world to me, as it does all of us. But I'll say this about him. He puts his politics aside and he's doing what he needs to do, supporting our Floridians. I truly appreciate him continuing being an advocate for us in Washington, D.C. We're all in this together, and I promise we will not let this be a forgotten storm. As we out our outreach to members of Congress, please, as we work together, we'll be stronger, and Tyndall will be stronger than ever before. Thank you.
Well, good morning. Jimmy, thank you for those comments. I always appreciated your leadership on the Florida Defense Support Task Force. You certainly get it with defense in Florida. You know, this great American defense community is committed to the military, its members, their families, and the installations in Bay County, Florida. They're a critical partner in national defense. The commitment of Vice President Pence to rebuild while visiting this installation on October 25th was very important to this community. He was joined by Senator Scott days after the storm, followed by a commitment by Secretary Heather Wilson to ensure that Tyndall's future would include remotely piloted aircraft, the F-35, basically 5th-gen platforms that make this the best place for those things to exist. Since October 11, Florida's congressional delegation has authored and supported an emergency supplemental, which was barely 10% of what was provided in 2017 disasters. In good faith, the Air Force has spent over $450 million on Tyndall's operations, recovery, and redesign program with a reasonable expectation of support. This investment is now impacting other important projects for readiness around the Air Force. Now it's time for Congress to deliver to the U.S. citizens what we have come to expect. The only thing we really have come to expect is support from our Congress. Finally, I'd like to take note that this entire community has a long history of working together with one voice, support of our bases. In fact, Bay County was formally recognized as a great American defense community. And on June 10th in Washington, D.C., on behalf of this 30-member Bay Defense Alliance Board, I'd like to say thank you to every citizen in Bay County who makes this community what it is and makes us great partners in defense. Now, Bay County is blessed to have a very strong Board of Commissioners and the outstanding leadership of its chairman, Griff Griffiths. Griff and his team have engaged at every level to move our county forward at such a very critical time. He and other leaders are in Washington frequently, and in fact there's some there today, to make sure that Bay County's recovery is in the forefront. I'd like to welcome to the podium our chairman of Bay County Commission, Mr. Griff Griffiths.
Thank y'all for being here today. We are truly blessed to have leaders like Senator Scott and CFO Petronas. They have been here tirelessly since before the storm and after the storm. I know they have a true affection here. We are truly blessed to have Colonel Laidlaw leading Tyndall back from recovery. His leadership has shown, you can see the true example he sets for his airmen. They follow his lead. It's a let's not pout, let's get this job done attitude, and you can see around this base the work that's been done in 6 months. My grandfather was stationed at this base in the 40s, so it truly holds a special place for me. Tyndall is 1/3 of Bay County's economy. It is such a vital piece of Bay County that that's part of the reason that we are such a strong defense-minded community. We support our airmen, we support our Navy facility. They are part of our family here in Bay County. Hurricane Harvey hit Houston August 25th, 2017. 17 days later, a bipartisan bill of $22 billion was signed by President Trump. I'm not sure the reason we are being held hostage 201 days later, but I encourage Senator Schumer to come down and visit. I'll buy his plane ticket. Fly down here, let us give you a tour of Bay County. Let us show you the problems we're facing. Let us show you the financial hardships. Let us show you the people that are truly suffering. And maybe, just maybe, you'll have some compassion in your heart to stop the petty politics of Washington and pass a disaster bill. This is simply not acceptable for the people of Bay County. It should not be acceptable for any American, because all of us will face it one day. So thank you for what you're doing. Thank you, you gentlemen, for all your leadership, and thank y'all for being here.
Thank you, Griff. One of the jobs as governor is you get to meet a lot of people, and what you find in these disasters is the sheriffs make a big difference. What I told, one of the most important things you can do after a storm is get the power back on. And so one thing I told all of our utilities is you need to know personally the sheriffs, because they know everything that's going on in their county. And it's even more true in the smaller counties, because they are clearly the local, they're the local leaders. In Gadsden County, you have a sheriff that I've had the opportunity to work with for, I think, the entire time. 8 years. And we've had lots of issues that we got to work on together. But what Sheriff Young's going to tell you, and Sheriff Roberts could tell you the same thing, AJ could tell you the same thing, and Franklin, is that we have got to deal with, one, we've got to help our forestry industry, and two, we got to help them get back on their feet. But on number two is we got to clean up these forests, because we're going to have wildfires. So let me introduce Gadsden County Sheriff Morris Young.
Thank you, Senator. I want to thank you on behalf of Gadsden County. It certainly is a Democratic county. For the last 30 years, I've been in law enforcement. 15 I spent as sheriff. And for the first time, I really seen bipartisan support from our governor. Governor Scott, as governor, he came to Gadsden County. He held hands not only with myself, but other county leaders, along with Congressman Al Lawson. We walked the roads of Gadsden County looking at all type of devastation. And I can tell you today that I certainly commend the senator on what he did as governor and as senator for Gadsden County. For the first time in my career, during this storm, Michael, I felt handcuffed. I sat in our comm center and I witnessed the phone calls that came through that comm center. Those folk who were screaming for help during that storm. For the first time, I felt I couldn't do anything to help them. And let me tell you, all across North Florida, we all felt the same thing. And we've seen devastation and catastrophic events in our nation, but never have I been a part of a storm like this. And I want to say that Senator Scott was boots on the ground in Gadsden County supporting us. And Senator Scott, I want to thank you for that. I do know that Michael is not over. Michael is not over. All the devastation that it caused, especially with our trees. North Florida is probably a third of forest. And we know that those downed trees is going to be fuel for this summer. And we're going to see California and North Florida. It's going to burn to the ground if we don't get bipartisan support now. You know, I hear talk about all other devastations, but I'm most concerned with my home, with North Florida. And so Senator Schumer, Pelosi, President Trump, please join hands in supporting North Florida. And for you, Senator, I have on my Florida tie. that I've had for 15 years. And I'm going to dedicate this to the senator. When he was governor, he was boots on the ground. As senator, he's still here with us. So this is for you. Thank you.
Once again, thank you everyone for being here today. It means a lot to our base, it means a lot to our community, and we look forward to working together as we all build a better tomorrow. At this point, I would like to open up the floor. Senator, I don't know if you have the time to answer any questions that we may have.
By the way, this thank you.
Yes, sir.
First off, for the time. But what Tom Neubauer said, this is a military community in that they very much support their military. But if you think about it, we have tourism, which got impacted by this hurricane. We have forestry industry, which got devastated by this hurricane. And all of us are fighting hard to get this done. Then the military is the next thing. If we don't, we've got to continue to support our military. So I'm going to do it. I think if you have a good idea, we ought to get a plane ticket for Chuck Schumer to come down. See if he'll come down and speak today. I can answer any questions anybody has.
Why do you think funding hasn't been passed?
It's all politics. This is about Chuck Schumer trying to act like he cares more about Puerto Rico than the Republicans do. I've said this publicly a bunch. After Maria, first off, we're all American citizens. We shouldn't have different politics, whether you're a Republican or Democrat, whether you're a territory or whether you're a state. We all ought to be treated the exact same way. After Maria, we made sure our state opened up. We opened up relief centers. We waived regulations. We made sure that everyone in Puerto Rico could come here if they wanted to come here, and they could get a job, their kids get into school. We did everything we could to get them housing, health care, everything we could. Chuck Schumer, I didn't see him doing any of that stuff in New York. New York didn't open up relief centers. New York didn't waive all the regulations and do all the things we did. And now he's trying to act like in this bill that he cares about Puerto Ricans more than other people do. So what we need to do is we need to pass the bill that Shelby has on the table. It has additional relief money for Puerto Rico. The first thing I did on the Senate floor was I said we need to have $600 million for a food and nutrition program for Puerto Rico, and I got that in the Senate bill. So pass this. If there's more we need to do down the road, let's do it. But right now, why don't we pass the bill that we have on the table? We're going to need to do more because we have the flooding we got, especially impacted Nebraska, Kansas, and Iowa. So we're going to have to do that. But this is for 2018. This is not the 2019 disasters. This is the 2018 disasters. And Chuck Schumer is just sitting. For whatever reason, he believes he's winning the game on politics with regard to who cares more about Puerto Ricans.
Do you think we're going to pass the 2018 disaster relief bill?
You know, I'm an optimist. I always believe we can get stuff done. I'm disappointed that it's taken this long. But I've talked to everybody over the weekend to see, because my belief is we should have been really close when I left 2 weeks ago when I was at the White House. But again, if the Democrats keep changing what their position is, then how do you get anything done? Say it again. Just keep it takes 60 votes to get a bill on the floor of the Senate. It has passed the House. It's got to be something that the president's going to sign. So you can't have something in the bill that the president has to veto. So the Democrats are playing games. They're saying they're putting stuff in there on their bill that the president has to veto. So they don't care about Florida. I mean, they don't care about Georgia. They don't care about, actually you can say they don't care about Puerto Rico, because Puerto Rico needs this food and nutrition program money. So I'm going to keep talking to everybody I can. I'm going to keep pushing it along. But we had a meeting before this. We all have to do the same thing. We all have to get out there. We all have to tell everybody how important this is and do what we're doing. Be on the news and show people the importance of it. Well, I'm hopeful. My goal as governor was to try to create a state where we had good resources. I think we left them with, I don't know if it was $3 billion of revenues over recurring expenses. So they have the resources, but they got to, we have a new governor, new legislature. They got to decide how to allocate it. Hopefully they'll be continue to be supportive. I think they will be. I have not heard that they won't.
What are your concerns specifically for the base, and where do you see the future of the base?
Well, here's what's happening. I talked to Secretary Heather Wilson of Air Force. I mean, she knows the importance of Tyndall. We all know the importance of Tyndall. The president's committed to rebuild Tyndall, but she's got a lot of bases she's got to take care of. But now she's got Offutt, which got the flooding up in Nebraska. So she's got to allocate the dollars that she has on her plate. So she knows the importance of Tyndall, but she cannot continue to commit dollars here if there's not going to be any federal funding. I mean, the federal government's broken, by the way. I mean, I've been up there for 100 days. People talk to each other. Nothing's getting done. It's just a broken place. It doesn't appear they're going to pass a budget this year, which is the craziest idea. And that's the whole. That's the first thing you ought to be doing in Congress. But I think Secretary Wilson is going to continue to tell people here's the ramifications if you don't do it. There's money that should be spent right now in Colorado that she won't be able to spend now, and I'm sure there's other places like that. I know the Marines have got problems at Camp Lejeune. So all these places have to have the money. And by the way, if you think about if you think about all of us as citizens, what would we like to have? We all want jobs, and we all want to be safe. Part of being safe is making sure we take care of our military. And if they can't, they cannot take care of us if we don't provide the resources for them to fulfill their missions. And I'm going to fight to make sure that happens. Thanks, everybody.
Staying out of trouble?